Welcome to the next lesson. So in this lesson, we are going to polish up and set the timing for this for this animation. So I'm going to set this to like 250, so we have more time to play with. So we're going to deal with the offset of this animation. So we're going to deal with the first few frames. Okay, so typically when a character is lifting, or when a person is lifting a weight this big or this heavy, usually it will take a considerable amount of time for it to lift it up, so it won't just go that fast. Okay, so we'll extend this time just a bit. So select this other keyframe, move it forward so it moves, it's a bit slow, like it eases in. Okay, so this is called timing, like we did in the previous lesson. So we just we extend the keyframe a bit to have that slow movement. So for this one, I would actually increase the time it stays there. So it's like he's trying to lift it up. Okay, he's trying to lift it up. So, and again, we are going to offset these three, I think these two, we're going to offset it a bit so it looks like so I think we made a mistake there again. So I think I'll extend this back. No. Let's undo a few of them. So I think I'll delete, we duplicated it to have that hold. We held it a bit, we held this pose for a bit. So I think what I'll do, I'll delete that hold, and instead I would offset the keyframes. So I'll make it such that this spine happened earlier. So I'll move this forward. So if I play this now, so you can see that this comes in before the hands move follows. Okay, so I think I'll do the same thing for the torso. So that's offsetting. So you just use your imagination based on your reference and train your eyes to look at the poses. So there's a repetition here. So for this pose, okay, I see the problem, especially this one. I think it's this first one. There's a hold somewhere, so I'll delete one of it. So I mean, I won't want to increase the duration of this video. I don't want it to take too long, but I believe you're actually getting the hang of it. So when it comes to timing and offsetting your animation, so offsetting is pretty much creating an action that leads to another action. So for example, the head raising up should maybe happen earlier or maybe happen later. So when the spine moves up, like you can see the arc moves up, the head is still facing down till it gets here. Okay, so I think I'll just duplicate this. So I'll hold that head pose just a bit there, so it stays on the ground just a bit and starts looking up when it has reached mid air. I think I'll extend this forward. So you just do for selected parts. So for the head raise, when the head is raised up, I think I'll extend it a bit. Or even when it's raised, I think it should raise just, it shouldn't raise that sharp. I think I'll delete this keyframe so it raises with more ease. I'll extend this one too. So you do that for, you do this for not for every controls, but for the obvious ones, especially the spine. You can actually see this spine is the pretty much obvious, you know, action going on in this scene, and the hands too. Okay, and the hands too. It's pretty much the obvious action in the scene. So you'd work on those obvious ones. You concentrate on the ones that are actually very obvious in the scene. Delete the keyframe that needs to be deleted, and, you know, offset the ones that needs to be offset. Extend the timing, the time it starts and the time it lands. Okay, I think I'm pretty much, I'm okay with the head. So it's the spine that I need to work on. You can see this arc here. I just need to work on this arc a bit. So I think I'll delete this keyframe, this one here. So I'm still having that. So I want to just let it grab and lift the weight with ease. So there's this twitch that is happening. I think it's from this control. I know it's a bit hard to explain. I think this is the key that is causing that issue. So it's still having, like, you can see it's bends like it's a maggot or a worm, which is it's good, but we want to make it more fluid, more believable. So you see, it can take a good amount of time, you know, working on your poses. I think I just want to have, let's extend this forward. A bit. So I'll offset this time, this other, you know, the reason why I'm taking my time, you know, my own keyframing may differ from yours, especially when it comes to timing. You get, but it's pretty much the same thing. So I think I'm okay. It's coming up now, but I'm still not satisfied with So I think I'll just move this forward. I would hold the pose. I think I'm okay with this. I'm okay with. My issue now is the head. The head has to be offset. You have to offset the head a bit, or the waist. Okay, I think that's the problem now. So I'll delete this key here. Okay, I think I've solved it then. So I've set that so the waist happens earlier. So if I select everything now, you can see that we've offset a few keyframes. It's not as uniform as it was, which it's supposed to be, because this is the first. What we did the last lesson was blocking. We just blocked out all the poses. So now it's time to time the poses. So we put it in a different time in space in this timeline. So we say, okay, this one should happen earlier, this action should happen earlier, instead of it happening all at once simultaneously. So for the hands now, let's tweak the hands a bit. So we say I think let's move I still don't like that this bend before it lifts. I think I should delete it. Yeah, I think I should delete it. I select everything and put everything on constant. I'll push this in. And I can now bend this. No. So remember when I said you can actually overwrite a keyframe? So I can actually drop this on top of this initial keyframe and I'll overwrite that action. You know what? I think I should go back to Bezier. So let's fix this feet. So the sliding back is not really what we want. So you see every action is happening at the same time, which is not supposed to be. So I'd delete this and make this happen earlier. Then I'll lift the feet. So instead of it coming back to position too early, so I would hold this pose by overwriting this action. So overwrite it. So when it comes here, it just I'll lift it up just a bit, just very subtle. I think I like that. I like the way it just happened like that. So for you, for the torso, when you have lifted up, so I would hold or offset it much earlier. So at this point, I want to make it happen earlier. So you see there's this offset. Okay, you can see that there's an offset here with the hands. So for these two, I can actually select all these keyframe, press S to scale it in. So let's it hit like 55. So that's too much. I'll scale it again to like there. So at this point, we are going to create an overlap to compensate this when the weight comes up. So I'll duplicate this pose, put it here like frame 65. Then I'll pull this up again. So when it comes up, it's like, yeah, there's this, he grabs it, then, you know, there's this rests at the end. So I'm just putting in perspective the principles of animation. So you might actually leave it the way it was. I mean, if you find this a bit confusing, but if you understand how to offset your poses, it will go a long way. So I'm not okay with this pull animation. I think I'll just leave it the way it was. So I'm just looking at it from the front view. Let's play it again. So at this point, I think the legs or this control should snap to the ground. So there's balance, because it's not realistic. I mean, I don't think that it's happened in real life where you lift weights and you're standing on your toes when you're lifting something this heavy. At least one foot should be planted on the floor. There's this shaky. I understand that it might be an effect for the character, so I'll delete one of these keys. I'm talking in terms of the torso. Then bring this action forward. I would hold this pose a bit so the leg can actually have time to come together before he stands. Yeah. So have you seen, I don't know if you've seen that problem right there. So there's a problem. The hands, no, it's the hands are not, protruding into his neck, which is not what we want. I think I should also hold this pose too. Apologies for Raymond. So it is the ability to actually look at the poses and offset them. So I think at this point, okay, yeah, it's correct. So you can actually check out references. I still have another reference I got. So this reference. So there are other references you can check. So I wanted to get this pose. So when he lifts up, he switches to this pose here. So I think I'm okay with this. Like I said initially, you may not get this right at the first instance, but if you've gotten your blocking correct, congratulations. You get your timing as time goes on. I mean, you don't have to get it right at the beginning. You do not have to get it right at the beginning. So I mean, I could spend hours on this. What's wrong with Raymond? So at this point, I would so you do not have to get it right at the beginning. So don't fret, do not beat yourself up if you do not get it right at the beginning. So this is me, pulling points together, pulling keys from one point to another to create that offset. So just have it at the back of your mind that when I talk about offsetting keyframes, it is allowing one action to lead to another action. That's just what it means by offsetting keyframe, and this can be applied to any character or objects, as it were. So I think I also want these hands to not just go in front, let it go to the top. That's why I brought this here, because if you look at it from the side, with this posture, there's no way this weight will not fall. I tried it actually. There's no way the weight will not fall on you or fall forward. So at this part here, I would extend, I would work on the shoulders, select the two of them, delete this keyframe here, so I just have this one. So at this point here, so I'll extend the hand, I'll overwrite this keyframe. You could notice this is in front, so you can actually overwrite the new keyframe you just created. Exactly. So I'll look at it from the side, bring it forward, so you can see don't bring it too backward. So you're actually using your eyes and your mind. I mean, you've seen people, you know, lift weights like this before, so you'd want to, you know, recreate that scene. Okay, select these two. So when he extends the hand up, it gives the character, like the torso, time to come up. So I think this hand should hold on the air just a bit. So that's how it's done. Just hold a bit on the air before it comes forward. So I'll select these two keyframe, extend it a bit. So when we bring this here, so you notice that, so you now notice, you're noticing something, right? It enters into the head, is actually getting in the way. So I think at this point where it's coming down, I would clear out the shoulders. All right, clear out the, bend the head up a bit. Oops. So let's check if it's hitting the nose. No. So at this resting pose, the head comes to, the head finally rests, brings his head, I mean, it's the action to a rest. Oh, that's it. You can bring it forward so it's not too slow. Okay, also at this end, I can choose to, it's just based on your preference, I can choose to rotate this forward now a bit. So that's how you offset. Okay, just make sure, I mean, the actions are not happening all at once. Okay, that's how you offset your the controls. Just make sure the characters, the actions or the whole controls are not happening all at once, so you can have this at the end of the day, that you can find that it's not actually all symmetrical or it's not all equal. So I'm still having issues with this pole here. So I'll clear out that transform there. Clear this out too. Okay. So I mean, I could spend hours on this, lots of hours on this to get this as perfect as possible, but we've done the basics and I think I'm okay with it. I just wanted to show you how to time your character and offset. So that's pretty much how to time it. Like I said before, it's how you define offsetting your keyframes or your poses, is that lets an action lead to another action. So like you see, the leg goes back to give support to the waist when it comes down. Okay, and when it comes down, the hand has to go up a bit while the waist follows suit. Okay, there's a hold pose, that's why. So I'll delete this hold. So the hand has to go up a bit to allow the waist come up before it lands. So it's not perfect, but this is basic weightlifting, like basic how to interact with weight. So I have, and also have another reference here. You could see from this reference, come on, load up. Yeah, you could see from this reference. Now this reference has a walk cycle. All right, so the character lifts the weight, walks forward, and then drops it. So there's an interaction, especially with the spine. You could clearly see how each of the spine were drawn, the arcs they make, you could actually see it from the anticipation to the final event. Okay, so that's, you can use this as another way to, you know, practice weights in Blender. There are a lot of ways you can practice it. You could use your bowling ball to practice weights depending on who is carrying it, so you would capture that experience on the character. So the way a young, healthy and vibrant man will lift a weight like this is different from the way a 5-year-old or maybe a 10 or 15-year-old will try to lift it. So you would want to capture that emotion, that's expression on the character. That's what the animation is all about. And the same way is going to be different for an old man when he's lifting weights too. All right, so you have to capture those emotions. So it's the ability to observe, you know, train your eyes to see. You know, there is no perfect way to get it right, but once you get your blocking, which is the first one we did by blocking all these poses, once you've blocked out your key poses, or you've succeeded in blocking out your key poses, the rest is secondary. So you just spend considerable amount of hours, you know, perfecting the poses, offsetting the poses. Let nothing happen all at once. Especially, I mean, I'm not saying all the controls should happen or should be offset, all right, but the key ones, like for this whole weight, all the obvious controls are the spine, the leg and the head. Even the hands are not that obvious. You can actually offset them at some point, but the leg, the right leg, the spine, the obvious control is what you actually focus on. All right, we'll talk about, you know, focus when we go into character acting. So where, I mean, all the professionals, that's how it's done in the industry. You focus on what the camera says. So let's say this was the shot. Okay, this is the camera view, and I was looking, let's say I'm looking at it from this shot. Okay, go to object mode, select it. So if I'm looking at it from this shot, I'm not actually seeing the head, as it were. Okay, so I'm not seeing the head. So where the head is blocking, I may not even focus on that, and that part in animating that particular part. So I'll focus on the spine and the legs. So even if I do a close-up, let's say I do a close-up of this shot to his face, there's no point animating the legs, so because the legs is not visible to the camera. So we'll talk more on that when it's time to animate, you know, create a character, you know, acting, make the character act and do some lip sync and all of that. So but these body mechanics are really important because it will help you, especially when it comes to customized animation. So in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to work with animation data. What I mean by working with animation data is how you can bring in other animations and place them on your character. That's what I mean by animation data. So you can actually bring a dance animation, for example, when you download it online. I'll show you how to, you know, bind it to your character such that your character copies the dance and you don't have to add keyframes and all of that. I mean, that might be the easy way out for you, but this manual key posing is very important. It's the part where you get your hands dirty. It's the part where you work hard, you fail, you try again. So what I would advise you practice more weight lifts. Go online, you can search online, you know, there are lots of them. There are lots of, you know, weights animations. You can search for them and, you know, copy them. So practice your work cycle. But before you even get hired in any studio, that's your exam. Create a work cycle, a run cycle, both progressive and in place, and wait. This is your exam. That's all they will ask you to do if you were asked to work in a studio. So they will ask you to create that work cycle, a run cycle, and wait. Excuse me. So when if you're able to perfect this or practice this enough to get it right, I mean, you're good to work, you're good to go. The rest is piece of cake for you. All right, so in the next lesson, we are going to work with animation data, and we'll call it close for this module, and we'll go over to character acting. See you in the next lesson. Bye.